So you can just look at this brick and you can see where the spike is. Just before the video starts, quick little shout out to me and my girlfriend, because the TMV store that she basically helped set up and basically did set up on her own is now open, and you can now buy some TMV products. I will leave a link in the description to this if you want to go and buy. It's also on kind of my channel page if you do. We tried to make it basically as cheap as possible. You know, there's different colors available for things. There's a Throw City jersey in here as well. I will be making no money from it. My girlfriend will be making tiny amounts of money from it because we tried to make it just as cheap as we possibly can. So if you do want to buy something from the store, then go and check the link out in the description. But now let's dive into the good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, let's talk about Breeze, because my Vodfather's co-host said this: from a 5-lane gimmick map, only one viable controller in pugs, holes making Sentinels lose all site autonomy to a god tier 3-lane cooler elbow, pathing to sites is better, sites have better angles to hold and push and fight. Holy top 3 map easily, and it's not number 2 or 3. Now that is a bit of a hot take, but is it true? Well, let's just dive straight into it and talk about whether this is a good map now. And I got baited by the pictures. I thought that this was the entrance to holes, but it's not. It's actually a little gateway here into mid instead, right? And this door opens and it makes a sound just there. Now, a crucial part about this door that we talked about on Vodfathers was the fact that this box actually blocks you from nest. So, you know, an angle like this instead is probably going to be pretty important, and I think this area in general for defenders is going to be very, very popular, very common in terms of being aggressive in towards elbow, in terms of, you know, getting down here, in terms of being aggressive this way as well. But if we do come over towards the A site and kind of talk about how that's going to play out, the barriers are still up here for the attackers, whereas they are still back here for the defenders. Right, so this is where the barrier starts. So that still is kind of a bit attacker-sided because you can, you know, get in here earlier than the defenders can. I do think that we might start seeing, you know, things like a smoke in here early on, because I do expect double controller to be very popular here. Now, one of the things that Riot talked about, obviously, was wanting you to be able to play multiple smokes on this map. Having just like one solo dome smoker with only 2 smokes, you're still going to struggle, right? Because where exactly are you going to smoke something off, right? Like, you maybe need a smoke here, you maybe need one there, you need one there, right? So like that's like 3. So you're probably not going to have enough if you're just coming from A main. However, if you come from mid and do an A split, you actually can do it, right? So if you come from mid and do an A split, you just need 2 here. Right, so it'll just be 1, 2, like so, and you know, you can now you've now smoked off what you need to, right? And unless someone has you know, a jet or something to come on top of this box, you know, that they won't be able to see you, right? There is a little bit of height from bridge here, but you know, they are quite far back. I still think you'll probably want a Viper or a Harbor, some kind of, you know, line smoke, because I do think, you know, for a normal A exec, it's just going to make it a bit easier for you. You'll still want a line smoker most of the time on this map. Coming over towards the B side of the map, they have made changes that do allow you to do, I mean, there's actually multiple variations you can do here, you know, with just a solo smoker. You can do something like this, which is more of kind of maybe a thrifty idea, right? We're just trying to take as little space as possible, get the spike down. You can, you know, do something maybe like this, right, to take a bit more space if you wanted to, right? So something like that would give you a bit more space if you're just using a solo dome controller. So you do have options here essentially on this B site. If you are just playing, you know, one normal smoke, you can do it. However, the problem that we've got here on the B site, and again, we talked about this on Vodfathers, and I do think this is a bit of an oversight by Riot, is that this is gonna, I think, turn into a bit of a sunset B situation where you can plant the spike here, and as I said, you know, you can not take much space if you don't want to, right? Just do like the Barry basic smoke. I mean, you could even smoke this if you wanted to as well, right? And take literally, we're not taking any space whatsoever. We're just here to get the spike down and run back. And the reason that you can now run back is because now that this is gone, what that means is there's only one way in here. And the thing is, if the spike is planted there, again, let's say, oh, but the defenders, they'll smoke off the spike, they'll smoke off the choke point, you won't be able to spam them, ha ha ha. Well, the problem is that this brick up here lines up quite well with that. So you can just look at this brick and you can see where the spike is. So if you come back here, for instance, in window, well, even if they do smoke off the spike, and I ping that brick, I'm just going down from that brick and I'm spamming, as you can see, in a pretty good position from where that is. Right, so that I think is a problem, and you might say, oh well, they'll smoke off this, right? So that you can't ping it. Well, they're probably going to ping it before you get the chance to do that, and even if you do, there's other problems as well. I mean, Where again, Brock, again, you learn some kind of ping up here, whatever it needs to be, and you do that. And that doesn't seem very fun. I'll be interested to see how that plays out. I'm kind of hoping this doesn't play out how I expect it might do, because I think that that makes the most sense for attackers on B anyway, because the main threat for attackers on B is going to be people in this area, right? You know, a Chamber, a Yoru, whoever it is, right, being aggressive down here. Like, let's just avoid them, try and get in here quick, take no space, get there, run back, have people in window, you know, playing Astra, playing Viper, playing Sova, all that, you know, shock darts bouncing off this and into there, right, whatever it is, cringe stuff. Now, to talk about Shio's claim that this is now the best map in Valorant, I would definitely have to disagree. I actually liked Halls. I know that's a bit of a hot take. I understand that the map will probably overall play out better than it would have done maybe with a Halls, but I think that Halls was interesting map design. This to me now is just kind of like a cookie cutter. Anyone could have designed this map. This is basically just like a bigger version of other maps that we've already got now. Doesn't have a lot, you know, kind of that excites me or interests me, and that's where I think Halls was particularly interesting, because you could do a lot of unique stuff with it, and we did see that. People will still complain about it because it's a big map. If you're playing on B on defense side and your teammate dies on A, you got to run all the way here, and the round is probably over before you've even got into it, and that's basically a problem that you can't fix on a big map. People are still going to complain about this map. I have no doubts about that in ranked, but I do think they have probably helped it out quite a lot. In terms of what I think the meta will be, let's dive into that and some of those questions. I do think double controller will be very popular. I'm playing Astra here for a reason, because I think that Astra will be extremely popular in a double controller, probably with Viper. And I say that because I think obviously Astra can help you anywhere across the map, which obviously on such a big map is going to be very, very helpful. And I do think that having the double smokes is gonna, I mean, it's meta anyway, you know, on a lot of maps, but I think on particularly on a map like this, it's just going to be helpful for allowing you to, you know, do a lot of different stuff, right? Like, maybe I want to smoke off Nest. Maybe I want to smoke off this to go up to Nest. And, you know, because they have made it easier to, you know, smoke as a double controller, you know, obviously a dome controller gets a lot better because of that, because that's what one of the things they wanted to do on this map. Now, obviously, Viper was, you know, 100% on Breeze before, and I still think, you know, this is going to be a Viper map. Whether it's, you know, something like this, you know, just a kind of common, you know, normal Viper wall that you did from before, which still should work fine, right? And particularly like after the fact, you know, once you get into this position now, you know, it's quite nice for them having to cross, you know, through a Viper wall into you. So whether you just do, you know, Barry basic wall like we used to, of course, or whether you do something a bit different, you know, you can do walls like this now. Like if you come into mid, start the round, right, like an A split wall. Again, you know, something like this is going to be pretty good because that smokes everything you need. Obviously, they have changed B to where, you know, this kind of wall, you know, kind of the old wall maybe isn't, you know, the only thing now that you can do, but it's not like this is bad, right? It's like, yeah, you're just taking more space. Like this wall is still good. And so Viper is going to be pretty popular no matter what. However, I do think that Harbor, who obviously recently got a fairly sizable buff, I think does have some options, right? When it comes to smoking this B site, again, I'm not the best Harbor in the world, but, you know, something like this, right, could be quite nice. You know, taking a bit more space overall. Of course, now the little orb thing goes through walls. So you can just throw it here, for instance, and get anyone back there. Again, is he worth playing overall, you know, versus like an Astra or something? Maybe not. I do think he's going to be okay, but I think Astra Viper is more likely. Now, when it comes to duelists and where we currently are, obviously Yoru is probably going to be like near 100% on Breeze as well, I think. I do think that will be interesting. We have seen Neon in the past on Breeze. We have, you know, seen Jet obviously in the past as well, that you might still get some of those agents as well, but also maybe Waylay will make an appearance, though I don't think this is the best Waylay map. When it comes to initiators as well, of course, this is going to be a Sova map. You know, I mean, it's Breeze. What do you want me to say? There might be some KO on here. Could you play Teo if you wanted to go, especially if you really did want to lean into this cringe B stuff? Could you play Teo? Like, yeah, maybe. Now, in terms of the Sentinel class, this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I actually think you can definitely play no Sentinel on this map anymore. I think because they have simplified the map and there's just less things to do, if you think about it, we are now in just like a straight, there's 4 ways into site, essentially, and getting in towards Nest and doing all that is going to be quite difficult for the attackers now to kind of exploit this area. So with that in mind, I actually don't think you need a Sentinel whatsoever. We actually already saw teams like Gen G play no Sentinel on this map on the old Breeze and find a lot of success with it. So with the current meta that we're in now, I actually think that that could thrive again, and playing, you know, double controller, double duelist and a Sova, absolutely fine. Or, you know, maybe you replace a duelist with a KO or whatever it is. I think that that will be a perfectly good way of playing this map. If you were to play a Sentinel in the current position that we are in, I think actually we are looking at the Chamber Veto type Sentinel. Now, you know, again, this kind of area here, attacking elbow, is going to be extremely popular. Thing is, there isn't a great place for Chamber to put this TP. You know, you're either putting it out in the open, something like this. I guess you could put it back here, but you are then, you know, limiting where you can actually TP back from. But maybe you'll end up having to do something like that. You can put it in this corner, but obviously that, you know, has its own risks as well, of course, when you're, you know, having to come all the way down here and then you're TPing maybe, you know, into opponents, so you don't really want to do that. And of course, again, like, you know, doing stuff over towards A main and trying to, you know, get set up in here. So there are some risks with Chamber when it comes to this map and what you're going to do. But I actually think that no Senti will be the best way of playing this map. So there you have it. There's Breeze overall. Do I think it's the best map in the game? No. Have they made the map playable now for everyone and at least somewhat enjoyable for everyone? Perhaps, and that obviously is a massive win if that is the case. I think it's definitely better than before, but I do still miss Halls. And in terms of meta, I'm expecting double controller, or I would personally play no Senti, double controller, maybe double duelist or double initiator, and definitely Yoru.